This is Chris Wade with the South Carolina Public Safety Chaplains Association, and today we're here with Dave DiDonato, Chaplain Dave DiDonato, and he just was at the area conference for ICPC for the Southeast last week, and I thought it'd be nice to hear what went on.
Okay. The ICPC is International Conference of Police Chaplains, Chris, and we are the credentialing body for law enforcement chaplains. We have an annual training seminar, which is held once a year for people coming in from international as well as United States. We have every other year, we have what are called regional training conferences, which are, in our particular case, we're in the Southeast and it's Region 8. And then we have every other year between the regional training conferences, we have what are called area training conferences. And that, in our particular case, last week was Region 8A, which was Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And we held it at Caraway Conference Center in Sophia, North Carolina. The format for at least the basic courses is there are 12 basic courses. We teach them at the area conference as well as the other two conferences. These enable the chaplains and even those who are not ICPC members yet to go toward their basic certificate. We also have what are called essentials courses, and these are courses on any other subjects that would be applicable or of interest to the attendees. I taught two basic courses, one on ethics and ethics, and another one on confidentiality and legal liability, and two essentials courses. One is on the theology of strategic planning for police chaplains, and the other one was spiritual faith, public safety officers, and critical incident trauma, which is based on a multi-year study that I did as part of my Doctor of Ministry studies.
So how many people were at this event?
We had approximately 40 people. We would say about half and half in the essentials and the basic courses.
From what departments did you see?
We had people from Northern Virginia, from Prince William County and Fairfax. We had from the Tidewater area, which would be the Norfolk area. In North Carolina, we had them from all across the state: Goldsboro, Wytheville, Charlotte. And in South Carolina, we had Lexington County, Lexington Police Department, Rock Hill, Spartanburg Police Department. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. What was the overall theme, or was there an overall theme for this?
Generally, there isn't an overall theme. It's just education to making chaplains better in what they do, so that they can be proficient and have confidence in their ministries. By and large, the majority of the chaplains in law enforcement and in any other public safety chaplaincy are local pastors. Mm-hmm. And they're coming from a church background and going and ministering to public safety officers, and that's a different environment entirely, by its insular nature, by the paramilitary situation, and a lot of the pastoral skills that the chaplain has, or that the local pastor has, and the education is basically church-centered. And the seminary education is basically focused a lot on theology, biblical, and preaching, whereas public safety chaplaincy, law enforcement chaplaincy, of course, is the big part of that is getting to know the members of the agencies. Also, the ministry of presence is the primary thing. And you're working with a governmental agency. They are hiring you, or they are appointing you as a clergy person, but you are a chaplain belonging to a governmental agency. And so there needs to be an understanding of what the two areas are and how they differ with regards from the local church. And so ICPC by virtue of the classes that they have, both the basic and the enrichment, helps the law enforcement chaplain, whether they be a single chaplain agency or a multi-chaplain agency, to again attain a skill set that would be more consistent and more benefit to the agencies that they serve.
With the chaplains that were there certain questions, certain things that they were struggling with in the way of understanding chaplaincy?
It would be how did they their niche? How do they develop that trust with the police departments? A lot of them are intimidated when they first come in, and so they just want to know how they can better serve and how they can gain that trust from the officers that they serve. And it's something that doesn't happen overnight. On an average, it takes a couple years for the officers to learn and gain the trust of the chaplain, or gain trust in the chaplain. And secondly, it takes about that long for the chaplain to get comfortable from being a local pastor to being a law enforcement chaplain. One chaplain from Prince William County that's been around for probably as long as I've been said it actually took about 5 years for him to get that. So,
what was his struggle there? Was there anything particular?
He didn't mention anything, and I found that kind of surprising, because the person who was talking was a former Army chaplain like myself, and Army chaplains, military chaplains, know how it is to be part of a governmental agency and to a pluralistic setting, and so I don't know whether he was really talking about himself. I'm not sure whether he was talking about himself or somebody else, but maybe that was just the environment of that particular agency, and a lot of things can contribute to that. It could be what were the chaplains like before? Did something happen that they lost trust in chaplains? I don't know. It's very you can have all the classes that you have. You can follow all the regulations, the rules, and everything like that. Have all the ethics, know all the definitions, confidentiality, and everything like that. But it really boils down to the personality of the individual chaplain, and even the individual officer, how they perceive that and how they practice that. So that was basically the big thing. They're always like that. And of course, the big class was confidentiality and legal liability. That's one that always catches them, and there's a lot of debate. That's first. The second one is usually praying in public.
Okay.
Those are controversial.
What's the issue there?
Praying in public, most of us come from a Christian background, and so we're used in our congregations to praying in Jesus' name. When you are in public, you are, first of all, you're wearing a uniform of a governmental agency, and you have I was going to say congregation, have a group out there that is a multi-religious organization, multi-religious group, different faiths, some with no faith, and so some are offended, who are non-Christian are offended if you pray in Jesus' name. And so there's some organizations that say, no, you can't pray in Jesus' name. There are other organizations that are quite comfortable with you doing that. But we recommend that you acknowledge your faith by saying, I'm of the Christian faith. I invite you to pray in your tradition as I pray, I pray in my tradition. And so that seems to satisfy the students.
I bet you that's quite a hot topic.
It is.
Especially here in the South.
Yes.
What other ethics and confidentiality issues are there that you guys discussed?
We start out with the fact that everybody that is a police chaplain, at least under ICPC, has to be ordained, have the education, are endorsed by their agencies, their denominations. For instance, the Southern Baptists are endorsed by the North American Mission Board. The United Methodist is a Methodist endorsement agency. And what they do is those groups endorse chaplains in general, whether they be military, whether they be law enforcement, whether they be hospital, or whatever. And each denomination has their own guidelines with regards to confidentiality. It is also found in state law. The state laws basically say that as a member of clergy, you are entitled to hold confidential communication that is given to you by a third party with no third person, second party, by no third party present. It's just between you and the counselee or the person, and you have to establish that chaplain relationship with them, and that any information that is given in the course of that conversation can be held in privileged communication, and the chaplain will not be forced to divulge that in a court of law. Now, there are some stipulations to that, and the stipulations are this. Usually the state laws state that it is a privileged communication between two people, one of being a clergy and the other one being the counselee or the person giving the information, but that it is first that it is acknowledged by the person who is talking to the chaplain or member of clergy that they are in fact a member of clergy, and secondly that the member of clergy is authorized by his or her denomination to hold those credentials, and must also abide by the privileged communication guidance put forth by the denomination. Now, here's where it becomes very controversial. If in the course of the conversation there are certain things that are called reportable matters to law enforcement
Which
agencies.
would be like what?
Child abuse, spouse abuse, elder abuse, intent to do harm to a identifiable third party, intent to do harm to yourself. Those, in a lot of cases, especially with other professionals, for instance, counselors, attorneys, and the like, are reportable offenses if that's done. So now what the chaplain is then faced with is, in the course of the conversation, then am I now going to have to report it? Now, there is, because of law. But what we instruct them in ICPC is this, is that they have to first of all establish that relationship, that the person you are talking to and you are the chaplain, and they know that they're talking to you as a chaplain. You are the chaplain. You then have to let them know that if there are certain limits to confidentiality to that, and that is, of course, with the things that I just said that are reportable by law. And so they have to know ahead of time, and it's our obligation, morally, ethically, to let the person who's speaking to us know that there are certain limits to the privileged communication, the confidentiality that we can maintain, and it's incumbent upon the chaplain or the minister to let the person know ahead of time about that, and go from there.
So in a lot of ways, all chaplains are not the same because of our confidentiality with our endorsing agencies.
Correct, and most endorsement agencies are pretty much on the same sheet of music, because they've been at this for years, and there have been court cases out there. There's a long history of privileged communication going all the way back to the colonial days in this country. Now, we do know that there is strong stipulations on Catholic priests. It's called the vow of the confession. And when you talk to Catholic priests, they will say that anything that is held that is said in the confession. Now, it can be confession inside the church, or there's a stole that they wear, and which means that at that particular point it is a confessor relationship. That anything that is said there, even if it breaks the law, one of those mandatory reporting things, the priest will tell you that they will not divulge that upon penalty of being incarcerated.
Yeah, that's true. So what else went on at this conference?
Just a lot of good fellowship and everything, and we spent a lot of time when we had meals and everything, just talking about each other's departments, what worked for us, what didn't work. Of course, telling chaplain war stories, like we like we all do, and everything like this. And of course, the ones that had the experience were the ones that did most of the talking, while the ones that were learning were new chaplains and everything, just sat there and just listened with the starry look in their eyes and everything. So, but it was neat. It really was, and we had a good opportunity. Of course, our spouses were there too. They had spouse activities.
Got to go.
Well, Ann didn't. She's recovering from flu.
That's right.
And stuff like that, and she didn't have her energy back. But it was really neat.
Okay, so what's up next for ICPC in this region?
Nothing right now until the annual conference in Wichita, Kansas, which is in July. Next year we will have our regional training. No, we will not have a regional training seminar because we will be having the annual training seminar in Region 8. It's going to be in Orlando, July of 2020.
Okay.
And that's the big one.
And this is open to just ICPC members?
No, anybody can come. We've had fire chaplains, we've had EMS, we've had even the personnel, firefighters, police officers. They even have ICPC has liaison officer classes.
Okay.
And interesting, and it helps them to learn about how to take care of chaplains. One of the classes is so funny. It's entitled. It's a liaison officer class, and it's entitled "My Chaplain Did What."
That sounds like a whole nother broadcast.
Yeah. My lieutenant at Lexington Police Department is a Special Operations Branch lieutenant, and he has, in addition to the chaplains, he has the Community Action Team, he has Traffic Division, and he has SWAT.
Okay.
And guess which one gives him the most gray hairs?
Chaplains.
Chaplains, you're right.
Okay. Well, that means next year the training will be down in Orlando.
Orlando, yep.
And in this July will be in Wichita?
Yeah, that's the annual training seminar in Wichita, yes.
Okay. So more information can be found on the ICPC for Cops website. And more information for the region can be found where?
Same place.
Okay. Sounds good. And this is Chris Wade and Chaplain Dave DiDonato. Thank you for spending some time with us, and goodbye.
Thank you.